I believe.
Yep. Okay.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live-streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should remute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. A 30-second warning will be provided. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the COVID-19 Special Notice for Public Comment Guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Thank you, everybody. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and would you please mute your mics during the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have introductions. And Fifi, would you please take roll call?
Yes, thank you. I will call each member by last name. If you are an alternate, hang tight. If I don't hear your representative's name, I'll call you just as soon after. So Charlie Anderson. Charlie Anderson. Mary Bruns.
Here.
Clark.
Jean Clark?
Jean Clark.
Yeah, here.
Bridget Cooney.
Here.
Lisa Hammond.
Here.
Vi Ibarra. Rashida Kamara.
Here.
Mallory Nestor Brush. Kim Ridgway.
Here.
Thank you. Deanna Perry.
Here.
Lori Reese Brown. Lori Reese Brown. Othello Smith.
Here.
Laura Timothy. Vice Chair Michael Dagelli.
Here.
Chair Abelson.
Here.
Thank you, Chair Abelson. Please note that committee member Anderson, Ibarra, Reese Brown, and Timothy are absent.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. And Fifi, have we received any public comment?
We have not received any public comment.
Okay, then we'll go on to the next item, which is approval of the summary of actions from the meeting of, oops, I lost the page number. Of September the 21st. Are there any changes or comments from the committee? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, and that was that Lisa?
That was Lisa. Yeah, Lisa Hammond.
Lisa Hammond? Okay.
Second, this is Kim
Mhm.
Ridgway.
Okay, so the motion was, the first was Lisa Hammond and the second was, excuse me,
Kim Ridgway.
thank you, Kim Ridgway. And all in favor, please say aye.
Chair Abelson, we have to conduct a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, forgot about that.
No problem.
Would you conduct that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Member Bruns?
Aye.
Member Clark?
Aye.
Member Cooney?
Aye.
Member Hammond?
Aye.
Member Kamara?
Aye.
Member Ridgway?
Aye.
Member Perry?
Aye.
Member Smith?
Aye.
Thank you. Member Dajali?
Abstain because I have not received the packet, therefore I'm not able to read what is written.
Noted. Thank you, Vice Chair Dajali and Chair Abelson.
Aye.
Okay.
I believe the
Chair.
motion carried, right?
The motion passes with all members voting unanimously. Noted that Michael Dajali, Vice Chair, has abstained from voting.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. And I'm a little confused about what this is saying.
So the consent calendar is the membership roster and then the upcoming meeting schedule.
Okay. So,
If there's no changes,
okay,
then we can
so
move
there are
along.
no, so that's just, we don't,
Just informational.
it's just informational and we just now move on.
Correct. If there's no changes from the committee.
Okay,
Or
are
comment.
there any changes from the committee? I'm not able to tell if there are any.
I don't see any
Okay, so I
hands.
think that we can assume there aren't. So with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the election of the PCC chair and vice chair for 2020 through 22. And if you would like to make a nomination for either chair or vice chair, please raise your hand or press *9. Each nomination must be accepted by the committee member before it can be voted on. So we will start with nominations for chair and then move to nominations for vice chair. Committee members, the floor is yours to make nominations for
Chair
chair.
Abelson, please share the eligibility list of
Oh, okay, yeah.
members who are.
Okay, the eligibility list is that you have to have been at least half of the meetings, I believe.
Yes.
Is that true? Okay, and there is a list in your packet that indicates who those people are.
Chair Abelson, would you like me to read the eligibility?
Please.
Yes. So members who are eligible to participate as chair or vice chair are member Abelson, committee member, current vice chair Dajali, committee member Smith, committee member Cooney, committee member Kamara, committee member Perry, committee member Reese Brown, committee member Hammond, and committee member Ibarra.
Okay, so knowing that, are there nominations?
Vice Chair Daucelli would like to nominate the current outstanding chair, Janet Abelson.
Oh, well, thank you. I would be happy to serve. Are there other nominations? I'll ask one more time. Are there other nominations?
I believe it's okay if you're on that list that you can nominate yourself if you would like to serve in either of those roles.
Yes, please express your interest now. If not, we can move along to vice chair.
This is Rashida Kamara. I'd like to be a second nomination for Janet, and I wanted to nominate Pello Smith for vice chair.
Thank you, Committee Member Kamara.
Are there other nominations? Asking one more time if there are any other nominations. Not hearing any, shall we close nominations and vote?
Sounds good. It sounds like there's only one option for each Chair Abelson.
Right.
So it would be yourself again, Chair Abelson, and then Vice Chair would be Pello Smith. But Pello, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great.
Okay, so with that, we'd need a roll call vote, I believe.
Okay, let's go ahead with the roll call vote. Member Bruns?
Aye.
Member Clark?
Aye for both.
Thank you. Member Cooney?
Aye.
Member Hammond?
Aye.
Member Kamara?
Aye.
Member Ridgway?
Aye.
Member Perry?
Aye.
Member Smith?
Aye.
Member Daucelli?
Aye.
And Chair Abelson.
Aye.
Okay, so motion passes unanimously. Our new chair and reigning chair is Janet Abelson, and our vice chair is Pello Smith. Pello's term will begin with the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much to all of the support we got from all of the committee. And Pello, is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for the nomination and the election. I look forward to serving with you, Janet, and with this council.
And I look forward to serving with you. I think we will enjoy it. With that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda.
Janet, could I just ask a quick question, maybe of Peter or staff? Because there's a lot of vacancies on our list of PCC members. Has there been any outreach recently to anyone to try to get those vacancies filled? Because I know it affects whether or not we can get a quorum, each month too. But I think it would be great to try to fill some of those vacancies.
To add to what you're saying, Lisa, it also indicates a lack of participation by riders, because most of those vacancies are in the rider slots. Did you notice that? I did.
And just from an administrative standpoint, we do an annual small outreach, and we'll reach out via social media and to our partner agencies and let them know that we do have a spot open on this committee for riders, and if they can get the word out, if at all possible. But we haven't this year because of the COVID crisis. I think everything was kind of thrown out of whack, but we do an annual reach out to anyone possible.
I have a question about the reach out.
Uh-huh.
What are the forums that are used to reach out to actual riders? Do you go through transit agencies themselves?
We'll generally contact directly either the agency or for the transit riders. Usually it's social media. If we rely heavily on social media for that.
Because I was going to make a suggestion that the transit agencies themselves, either our website for the transit agencies, or if there's a mass mailing to active riders, maybe in the past year or the past 6 months, saying that a seat is open. I mean, first come, first serve. I think it coming directly from who they're riding from, saying that, because, you know, this council is kind of put together for the riders technically, even though we're all fabulous advocates, getting a personal perspective from the rider, especially from each of the representative cities and transit agencies here, will definitely be a lot better. If that's a 50-50 thing, then I'm thinking just reaching out to the transit agency themselves. If it's a paratransit agency, if it's a city agency, we throw the criteria in. You have to have used the service, I don't know, 50% of the time in the past 1 year, or however it is, but at least send it out to them and ask for volunteers. Just a suggestion.
Taking notes.
We do typically, Rashida, go through the transit operators and ask them to, you know, put flyers on the vehicles. I mean, things are a little hard right now with COVID to be able to do that, but the website and the, you know, reaching out, you know, through you guys reaching out to your different committee structures is always helpful. Of course, it's always, you know, whenever we discuss this, and we typically discuss this every year when it comes to people's membership being renewed on an annual. Everybody's on for 2 years, but it's an offset schedule. So every year we have, you know, we'd go to the PCC with people who want to renew for the next term, and we talk about, you know, we have all these vacancies. We need to, you know, reach out to people, and so that's one of the roles that you guys have as PCC committee members to do that. But we will certainly provide whatever information is needed regarding schedules, regarding applications, regarding, you know, the bylaws. We have all that new member or, you know, prospective member information. So Fifi can get that out to you as operators, and maybe you can figure out the best way to get it out to, you know, potential riders that can join. I think a lot of you, maybe Pello even joined through that process, through Tri-Delta Transit recommended to you to join, if I recall, and I'm trying to see who else is, Michael probably too. So, but we've had quite a few of the, you know, consumers that are on the committee, you know, not be available lately. So it's time to do kind of a strong push and get those seats filled up.
I'm happy to create a template for our members, and you can forward it out, you know, fill in the blanks and forward it out with information on the PCC and how to apply. Is that something the committee would be interested in? Yes. Okay. I'll get that out to you guys.
One other thing that would be helpful, I think, on the brochure that you're talking about doing, which is a great start, thank you very much, would be to say that it's virtual meetings during the pandemic, so that people know that they don't actually have to go out and be exposed.
I was just going to mention that, Janet. I mean, one of the difficult things about getting members is, you know, just historically, it's been difficult for some people to get to the meetings. And now that we're doing these virtual meetings, it really makes it easier for folks to, you know, participate.
It does.
I have a question. This is Jean from San Pablo. How long is the, if anybody knows, how long has the Antioch position been vacant? I mean,
Yeah,
do we have someone that just recently
that
became vacant?
technically that needs to be revised out of the bylaws, the Antioch position. It was eliminated when Tri-Delta Transit took at one point Antioch Senior Center had its own bus service.
Okay.
And when Tri-Delta Transit took that over, that seat was eliminated. So
Okay.
just the bylaws haven't been revised since that occurred. So
Could we maybe put that on our next agenda?
yeah, we need to do that. I think what we need to do, and it was kind of on, well, we'll put it on our next agenda to move in that direction. I think the idea was we were going to put together a subcommittee that could take a deeper look at the bylaws, and then, COVID hit and it kind of got deprioritized a little bit. So
That's actually exactly where we were.
Kind of adjusted to that a little bit. I think it's time to have that discussion again. But
Yeah, that's exactly where we were when the shelter in place happened. So I'm happy to revise that and put that on the next agenda.
Thank you. Any more on that item? Okay, then let's move on to item number 8, which is the paratransit providers update on current services provided during the COVID crisis. Are there any comments? Let's see, first we need the comments from the providers. Which providers have comments?
Rashida, County Connection, has comments.
Super.
So we're still actually transporting one passenger at a time. It doesn't mean that we won't go to 2, but right now we're still doing 1. We're still not doing social service agencies the traditional way because they haven't quite opened up yet. We're still doing Meals on Wheels. To date, we've done over 16,000 Meals on Wheels. I don't have all the specific numbers in front of me, but we've also done a few thousand school lunches and brown bag programs. We've done about maybe 600, done about 500 COVID positive transports in conjunction with working with the EOC and the county health department. We have 4 drivers that are actually registered to do that transportation 7 days a week. In addition to that, November 1st, we resumed fare collection, paratransit fare collection, and also November 1st, we started a 1-seat regional transfer ride pilot. It's still going through some tweaks, but we've been doing it for about 2 weeks now. There's a fare restructure that is happening. Our first fare structure didn't go down so well, so there's a fare restructure that's happening. And probably starting this week, we should see more riders on that. Originally, we had wanted to make it kind of like a rider's choice type of program, but now anybody who really wants to use it, because we're restructuring the fare, we think that more people are going to get a chance to use it. That's my update.
Okay, thank you. Are there other operators that have anything to say?
So the city of El Cerrito, we are also continuing to deliver the Meals on Wheels. And we are running our Easy Ride service, doing 1 passenger at a time with trips to grocery stores, pharmacies, and medical appointments.
Is that just within El Cerrito?
It is just within El Cerrito, yes. And we are still operating on a modified schedule. We're offering the rides 2 days a week.
And the other days you're doing the other services that you just spoke about?
We're doing Meals on Wheels one day. We are doing the Easy Ride 2 days. And then we don't have drivers available the 4th day, and we're not working on Fridays.
Mm-hmm. And how is that working out pretty well?
Yeah, it seems to be working out pretty well. We've seen a few more people added to our lists, but we still have, many of the days we still have the space that we could add additional riders, so we're not turning anyone away.
Mm-hmm. So which Meals on Wheels are you doing? I actually myself get Meals on Wheels.
So we're doing the county nutrition program that would normally be the congregate meal program that is transitioned to a Meals on Wheels style. So that's what we are delivering.
Okay. So do you do the frozen meals?
Yes.
So, okay. And
it's the same food as Meals on Wheels. It's just a different program.
Okay. So it's not the, I'm confused about what's the county program?
Cocoa Cafe Senior Nutrition Program.
The one that was in person before.
Correct.
As opposed to the one that wasn't.
Right. So they're all being operated in the same fashion right now.
Okay, that's why I'm confused. I think.
So it's all the same food. It's all operated in the same fashion. We're just delivering to the people that previously had come to our center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How is that working out for those people? Do you know?
It seems to be working out fairly well. We have, a pretty consistent group that seem to be very appreciative of the meals. Yeah.
Does it work out for the drivers?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. What about what other? I can't actually tell who's here.
I'll go. This is
Jean, you're
Clark.
from San Pablo, right? Yeah.
This is Jean Clark from City of San Pablo. We're doing very much what El Cerrito is doing. So we are operating our paratransit Monday through Friday. So we were able to extend that a little bit. Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:45. And we're doing those essentials. So bank, grocery store, and medical. And I mean, that has dropped. We're probably at like 70% of what we normally are doing for requests. And then we're also doing the meal delivery program. So we went from 30 meals being delivered to over 100 being delivered. So we deliver those every Friday, the same type of meals that El Cerrito that Bridget was talking about. So those are the frozen meals from the county. And we also do at our senior center, which isn't necessarily part of paratransit, but it's the same meal program. We do meal pickup on Tuesdays, and that's about 120. So we came close to so since the pandemic, we've been close to tripling the number of meals that we've been either providing where they come and pick up or delivering since the pandemic. And that has held steady, which is good to know that there aren't more people, that are becoming in need. So we keep doing that outreach, but that's what we are doing.
Okay, great. And Fifi, can you tell who else is here from providers?
Committee member Dre has her hand raised.
Okay.
Hey, this is Ridgeway representing East Bay Paratransit. Just kind of business as usual since the last report. We are continuing to do our Meals on Wheels delivery as well. As of November 8th, 11th? I don't even know what today is. I'm sorry. We've started collecting fares again on paratransit, but the actual service itself hasn't changed outside of the normal paratransit services, including the continuation of Meals on Wheels, and we will be continuing to do that into the new year.
The delivery of meals.
The delivery of meals, yes.
And you only deliver to Alameda County, right?
Right now, we're just in Alameda County.
Because in Contra Costa County, there are other arrangements for the meals.
Correct.
Although I'm not sure about Richmond. So everybody in your service area is covered. Do you think that's true?
So,
Or,
I'm sorry,
Kim?
I'm seeing a hand from Lisa.
Oh, there. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kim, not for you. I was going to talk after you're finished.
Okay. So if you cover Contra, the only part that I'm wondering about is Richmond, I think. Is anyone here from the Richmond program? So we kind of don't know what's going on there, I guess. Okay. But you're covering a pretty large area all the way, I assume, from Berkeley, Albany to Fremont. Is that true?
That's correct.
You might want to double check with Westcat. Westcat actually might cover. The reason why I'm saying that is because when we first started this, not all the transit agencies were participating at the time. And in fact, not all the transit agencies are participating at this time. So after we conferred with, like for instance, before Westcat joined, we took some meals over to their service area. That's County Connection. And then we also are currently taking meals over into Tri-Delta service area. So we stopped taking into Westcat once Westcat joined. So if East Bay Paratransit is not taking, then the person who coordinated with Charlie and his people may have asked them to see if they could deliver in the Richmond area. But I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went outside of their service area to do it, because we did it for a while and are still doing it.
And then Richmond, we don't know about either.
They might, Westcat might be doing Richmond.
Which is, I think, a larger population area than Westcat.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So there are a couple we don't know about.
We'd have to confirm with Charlie to see if they're doing Richmond. Yeah.
Yeah. But, okay. Are there any other reports? Lisa, you had your hand up. You wanted to continue on a different topic.
Yeah, no, I wanted to continue on this topic because Choice in Aging typically has a transportation program with a van where we transport our participants to and from our program, but we're not doing that now. But we also pivoted. We did meals, we did PPE delivery. We've done a number of things since COVID hit. I don't think we're doing that as much now because the meals have been taken over by other agencies. We do still bring meals, but not necessarily in our bus, mostly from our staff to our participants who need additional food supply or healthy snacks or any number of things. We also have done some sort of larger countywide programs. Our president and CEO, Debbie Toth, organized got funding together to do actual pulse oximeters delivered to all of the board and care homes in Contra Costa County, which I believe was about 340 care homes, because there was information being provided that when the oxygen rate dropped in people, that was an indication that maybe there was an issue with COVID. So all of those board and care homes now have pulse oximeters, the ones that just go on the finger. So the board and care homes can take the oxygen levels of their residents with those. So we've done a number of different things, but transportation, our bus has really kind of been idle, I think, for a while now. We're not providing, the transportation or the meals now with the bus. But the other thing is, I thought at some point, I think it would be extremely helpful for us to try to consolidate and get all of this information together about what everyone did and how they did it during COVID. I know the FTA has sent out some questionnaires during this COVID time, if you're a provider and you get 5310 money, for example, how many trips are you providing? Any number of questions, but just for us to be able to know how people were able to pivot and be able to provide things for people in need, primarily food and some transportation during this pandemic, I think would be extremely helpful for us to have and know going forward in case something like this ever happens again. And it should include everyone, including, Richmond and Westcat, even though they're not on, in this particular PCC meeting, but we should have this information available so that we know, if there is a next time going forward, we can, and maybe all of us aren't going to be at these jobs at that point, to say, wow, look, in 2020, County Connection did this and that and the other thing when we had a pandemic, and somebody could pick up the pieces and do it again without having to reinvent the wheel. I don't know how we do it. I don't know who would take the lead on it, but I think it's really important for us to document what we're doing and how we're serving the community, because our whole world just got turned upside down, almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm. If I could add to that, what you're saying, Lisa, the thing I've heard a lot about are people are wondering if they're allowed to do things, with money that they were getting for one reason, and now they can't do that reason, but they can do this other reason that's got a lot of worth. And so people are confused about what to do in a number of cases that I've heard about. Because of what the rules are, and what the alleged use is, and what it no longer can be, that kind of thing, that sort of thing. It seems like, from what I've heard, it's worked out really well everywhere anyone's done anything in our area. I'm really proud of our area, actually. Our whole county has just really done a lot, I think, to make it lives better for the people they serve.
Jerry Wilson, we have a couple hands.
Oh, okay, thank you. I can't tell if there's hands, so I need to be told. Thank you.
Yes, no, I apologize for interrupting. We have committee member Hammond, and then Peter, I believe, wants to.
Okay.
That was me. I'm done.
You're done? Okay. Then Peter?
I was just curious about, I've heard a lot lately, and some from the FTA, about kind of getting ready for vaccine distribution, and how that would go to, number one, how it could be distributed, and number two, how many kind of frontline workers are there, including transit operators, that might be early on the list for possible vaccines. So I was curious from any of the operators if they've heard from any agencies or transit, FTA or any other federal agencies about possible distribution of vaccines.
This is Mary. What we were simply asked to answer some questions around the drivers we have in terms of vaccine distribution. And that question came from Valerie Smith at the 5310 program. I'm not sure how any of this would work. I mean, we would have to take people in to get the vaccine. It wouldn't be like delivering.
Yeah, it sounds like, especially with that, whoever the company is that kind of has the lead on the vaccine right now, Pfizer. That it would be required, because it needs to be super chilled, so to speak, that people would have to go into a facility to to have that administered to them. And then there's two injections 3 weeks apart. So, so I think it's probably, at least from FTA's perspective, the frontline kind of drivers who, have an exposure risk that might get, prioritized, one of the list of priority people to receive that. But
when we get to our passengers, it would be great if there were a health mobile kind of thing that went to each city, so that the injections could be done on the spot rather than trying to transport everybody to medical clinics and centers. I think it would be more efficient to bring it to each city.
I had a question for the group. This is Jean Clark again from San Pablo. We're working with the county right now to open up a new testing site at Davis Park Multipurpose Room. It's going to council tonight. It's already been approved by the County Board of Supervisors. So we don't really see why it would not be approved. So that's going to be, they have one at Behavioral Health behind New City Hall on Gateway Avenue, but that is outside. So they were really looking for an inside building. So that's actually going to be established coming here in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to be an indoor COVID testing site pretty much November through the end of June. Does anybody, just paratransit wise, we were just kind of throwing out there, someone's like, oh, well, I'd like a ride to go get tested. I mean, obviously we're doing our symptom screening questions before we let people on, but does anybody have like a policy about that? Or are they doing something different other than symptom checking? And if they have symptoms, they're not allowed to ride? I'm just curious, because I think we're going to get an uptick of people wanting rides for COVID testing.
It may be a thing that I got involved in a conversation with somebody who was looking for a site, actually. And so they wanted to know if there were any sites in El Cerrito. And so I talked to them and referred them on to somebody else that would perhaps do that. I don't know if it happened or not. I don't think it did, because I think I would have known had it happened. But it was for testing. So I don't know. I guess I don't know the answer to your question, but I know that there are people out there doing what I would call feelers, trying to find sites.
We already have a site. I mean, that's not a problem. The site's being established and it'll be established within the next week. It was more about, is anybody doing anything regarding testing or people that are requesting rides other than doing a symptom check? Just our drivers were nervous about all of a sudden getting a flood of people asking, hey, can I get a ride to, the new testing site? So it sounds like nobody's doing anything other than just doing your normal symptom question check and temperature check before somebody gets on public transit. So I just wanted to ask.
Actually, I had a personal experience that makes me think that they're not very interested in doing that. I needed to have a COVID check because I was having a procedure done in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to take paratransit, and they said no. And
where was that? What paratransit?
Kaiser. What paratransit was it? East Bay. Well, it wasn't East Bay that it was involved in the conversation. It was Kaiser. Didn't want
was Kaiser providing the transportation?
No, nobody was. That was the problem. they were expecting me to come in a car because it was it's outside, and so they expected me to come in a car, and I don't have a car.
It was a drive-through, so you had to, that's why. Okay.
Yeah, and it just happened to me in the last week, actually. So what I finally ended up doing was I arranged 2 paratransit rides, one to take me there and one to take me home. And I waited. I ended up waiting a long time because of it. It was pretty bizarre, but I think they're really not at all sympathetic to people who use paratransit. I was just not, impressed at all.
Yeah.
And I have to have this procedure. I have to have. It's like you have to have somebody drop you off, and you have to have somebody pick you up, and they won't allow Uber. They won't allow anything. And I'm talking about Kaiser, really, and in West County, and they insist that you have somebody to pick you up and drop you off, which is for a lot of people not really particularly viable. And so I finally figured out an answer, but it wasn't easy. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who have that problem. And it's quite hard. It's a hard situation to deal with.
Question and a comment. So in the comment first, Debbie Toth was taking those issues on in a meeting we had that relates to the accessible transportation strategic plan, and they're wanting to solve some of these issues. So that's my comment. But my question is, Rashida, didn't you provide COVID positive rides?
Yes, we still do.
And so how do you keep people safe? And if you're able to do it, it would seem to me that all the paratransit companies should be able to do it.
So there's a difference. The scenario that's being described right now is somebody who wants to go have a test done, either on their own, or they may be not feeling well, or maybe the job says go get a test, and they call paratransit services and say, can you take me to go get a test? Those are not the COVID positive transportation trips that we do. We work in conjunction with the county health department and the emergency operations center. They have a list of individuals who are not necessarily paratransit eligible individuals under their emergency response function 1. And this is when you have these emergency, we talked about emergency response when we were dealing with earthquakes and fires, but now the Emergency Operations Center of our county activated it under this pandemic, and there was a transportation piece. The transportation piece meant getting potentially getting positive individuals or individuals who were suspected of being positive from either homeless shelters or congregate livings to get tested, or have been tested and needed a ride back to quarantine areas like hotels. So they would call us in order to transport these individuals. Sometimes we will pick up an initial transport directly from the hospital, not because we took them there, and either take them to a hotel or take them to another area, or they will call us for us to go to some kind of a nursing home or a SNF to pick them up there, take them to the hospital for them to go get tested, or take them from the hospital to some kind of quarantine area or isolation area. We are still reviewing the possibility of just a passenger just calling under our normal channels and saying, hey, I'm not feeling so well, because one of the things that we have told people when COVID started is that we're not an emergency we're not a medical emergency services. So if you're not feeling well, we certainly don't want to, even though we're prepared with all the proper PPE, we certainly don't want you getting on the vehicle sick. That's something for 911 when you know that off the bat. But if it's one of those situations where you're not necessarily sick and you're calling and saying that, oh, my doctor has told me that I need to go get a COVID test, we're still exploring how we can just take a phone call from the general public of individuals who are eligible to use paratransit services and just say, hey, we're taking you for a drive-by test, or we're taking you to drop you off, like Janet described, go get tested, and then you book yourself a return ride. So that's actually still in the works. We're trying to determine whether or not we use our COVID drivers, and our COVID drivers are on standby right now, about 4 registered COVID drivers, and they basically rotate at the county's beck and call in order to transport our COVID passengers. So we would either have to increase the amount of qualified drivers to do the COVID test, then suit them up, and I don't use that word lightly, suit them up so that if somebody calls, we're prepared for it, and that person says, oh, I need to go get a COVID test. No, I'm fine, but I do need to get a COVID test, so that we send the correct driver. Because these vehicles go through additional cleaning protocols. The drivers go through special training. They're booted and suited, and I do mean booted and suited. They look like hazmat drivers, actually. They're booted and suited to go do these pickups because of the protection that's necessary, because of the training that we receive from the county.
And Rashida, so
yeah.
This is available only to people who are not eligible for paratransit?
So what I'm describing right now, we don't check their eligibility because they're coming to us, the request for transportation is coming to us through the EOC. So it doesn't mean that somebody might not have been deemed eligible, but it's not a regular paratransit call. Can you come get me?
So if somebody does call us and say, look, I'm having symptoms, I'm not feeling well, I really want to get a COVID test, we're not comfortable as a paratransit provider. Does anybody here have an answer for them? To get tested or to call their doctor and let it go through that process?
That's basically what we've been, but what I was going to say is that we're actually now trying to work that process out because there is an uptick. So we anticipate that more people don't have to come under that whole, they'll probably still be hazmated, but the fact that our regular constituents, which are the people that we service, ADA eligible passengers, may need that level of service. So we want to be able to be prepared to say, if they call us and say, I'm not feeling well, we're still not a emergency service because we will say that. If you're not feeling that kind of, if you're that sick, you need to call 911. Paratransit is not the quasi ambulance that's supposed to take you. But if it's just a regular, oh, my doctor said I actually need to go for a COVID test, just like that, we'll probably develop some screening questions to make sure that it's not an emergency. If it is an emergency, we'll tell you that we can't take you. If it's not an emergency and this is more like a same day doctor's appointment, so to speak, or, oh, can you book me tomorrow? I want to be able to go for a COVID test. Then we're working on it. We haven't started it yet, but we're looking at ways in which we will make that possible.
Thank you so much for that.
I hope that's on the record that we haven't started yet.
Yes.
Okay, but we're looking at ways under which it might be done.
Jean, do you have a follow-up comment?
No. I was just saying thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay, great. Is there anybody else on this item? We probably need to move on. That was really interesting, though, what people had to say. So the next item is an update on accessible transportation, on the accessible transportation strategic plan status. That's you, Peter, isn't it?
That's me.
Thank you.
I'm gonna really, I think the main event, we've had several TAC meetings and policy advisory committee meetings since our last PCC, I think. But I think the main event was on October 27th. We had our telephone town hall for the strategic plan. And just to give you some information from that, we had calls go out to we use a agency that puts on these telephone town halls, a company, and they have a system of doing it, and they do a robocall out to 23,000, just over 23,000 seniors in Contra Costa County, and that generate that and other outreach that we did to tell people about it through different social media accounts and different programs, and through the study technical advisory committee. We had 1,208 people accept the call. Now, of course, they all didn't stay on the whole time, but I think by the end, which was an hour, it was from 6 to 7 p.m. on October 27th. We probably still had 30 or 40 people on there, which is still pretty good if you're considering, the times, and if you just had a public meeting, you probably wouldn't have that many people if they had to go someplace. So, like I said, we had an hour. We had 2 elected officials that helped kind of do introductions and answer some questions. Supervisor Candace Anderson was there representing the County Board of Supervisors, and Lafayette Councilperson Teresa Geringer was there representing CCTA. She's the vice chair for CCTA, and they made some remarks. And then we had the study planning staff from Nelson Nygaard, John Cunningham, and myself were there to answer people's questions, regarding the study and, services that are out there and everything. I'm trying to look here. I think we had 11 people over that hour that were able to get in the speaker queue and were able to, on the phone, on air, as we would say, in the radio biz. It wasn't radio, but it was basically functioned like a radio call-in show. We had 11 people able to ask questions that we were able to answer. And then we had 5 or 6 more questions that came in after the meeting. People were provided an opportunity that if they were in queue to get their question answered, but we ran out of time, they could leave their question on a recorded message, and then we would address those. For the most part, everybody was on point with questions about accessible transportation. There were a few that, had other issues that they wanted to discuss, housing and stuff like that. But I think it went pretty well. We had, looking at some of the statistics here, we had most of the people on the call were from either Central or East County. Well over probably 75% were from those 2 parts of the county. And then the remainder was pretty much half from West County and half from the southwest part of the county. We had some opportunities for some people we polled some people on some questions where they would, answer using their phone push button. So either yes or no questions, 1 being yes, 2 being no, or some other questions. One question was, what are the challenges you face with existing transportation services in Contra Costa County? And about half the people, 52%, said that their trip took too long. So that was interesting. And that's something that we've heard through other public outreach in the study. And that, in that same question, 23% said they cannot travel at the time they want to, and 26% said they cannot travel where they want to. So those 2 you hear a lot as well, but I thought it was interesting that their trip takes too long was, the majority of the folks. So anyway, we felt it was really successful. We spent some time the next couple of days talking about it, and what we found successful, I think, if nothing else, just the outreach regarding, the fact that the study's being done, and the fact that we had elected officials on the call that expressed, interest in the study, and really trying to make sure that changes, are looked at very seriously and made appropriately for accessible transportation services as we move forward. So, John, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't think I could add anything to that coverage of the telephone town hall, Peter. That was very comprehensive. You kind of hit all the pieces. I don't know if you want to mention the policy advisory committee meeting on Wednesday, sort of changing topics.
Yeah, there was a TAC meeting scheduled for tomorrow and a policy advisory committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday. We ended up kind of having to do some, last week type changes to what we were primarily thinking about taking to those committees. And in doing so, we canceled the TAC and just encouraged TAC members to join in the policy advisory committee meeting if they had questions or concerns, so we could kind of get some consolidate some issues in order to go to that. The study is scheduled to it's starting to wrap up. The consultant Nelson Nygaard is coming up with some strategies that they think will help move and improve accessible transportation service. We anticipate those over the next couple months, and we'll probably be scheduling February, March timeframe to take the study to CCTA and the County Board of Supervisors. We are thinking about an additional telephone town hall later in the process before we go to the adopting agencies, just to kind of give people an opportunity to hear about what the recommendations are from the study. But we're still trying to decide if we think that would be a effective use of the funds for this. So that's my report.
Thank you. Mary? No, Jean.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say, Peter and John, I was on that call, and it was fantastic. I mean, of all the calls that we've been on and all of that, with the large number of people, I felt like, even though I think I was on for almost an hour and 20 minutes, and I think there was only like 6 or 7 people that got to actually, ask a question, but I felt like they were from very different populations. We got one question that was translated from another language. And so I felt like the people that were chosen just seemed to be a broad spectrum and all brought up different issues. And I thought the panel that we had, which of course they should be because they're on a board, but I thought they really answered the questions well. And I can't believe how much I learned about transportation. I mean, that's what it is, right? We all have so many things to offer, but it's trying to put all of them together in one cohesive package for somebody, which seems to be the struggle. But I learned so much from it. And like I said, Peter, as a moderator and the way that you guys did it, I just thought it was really great. And so I just wanted to commend you on it.
Great, thank you.
I thought it was going to be a much harder phone call, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jean. Jean brought up a good point about the translation. We had 2 rooms besides just the main English forum. There was 2 other rooms that people could go into for translation. We had a translation into Spanish and a translation into Mandarin. And that's something we've learned in doing our public outreach on this study, that those are kind of the 2 main languages other than English that really we needed to put information in to get response from those sectors of residents. So.
Well, again, just well done. And I would recommend anytime you guys do that, for you guys just to get on, and I just learned so much. I know I'm kind of new to the game as well, but I just learned so much about what's out there, what's available, and what's coming up in a really kind of organized, slow, controlled fashion, so that everybody could kind of hear what was happening. And it was just, you did a great job.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much, Peter.
You're welcome.
And what are the next steps?
Next steps are the PAC meeting on Wednesday, and then we will be scheduling another one for December, and there is one already scheduled for January. That'll be the last of the PAC meetings, and then again, probably going to the Board of Supervisors and CCTA in either February or March.
Okay, thank you. So the next item are the reports. And the first one is a Service Review Advisory Committee report, which says the most recent meeting. So I found the most recent meeting and I looked through the items on it. And it was pretty much a repeat of what was said today, because the operators talked about what they were doing. And the one thing I think I could add to it was that there was a overwhelming set of comments, especially from the riders at the meeting. And at that meeting, there are a lot of riders about the quality of the service that was being provided, especially given the circumstances of the pandemic. So what I was hearing is that the riders really appreciate and support what the operators are doing at this point in our existence. And especially about things like making sure that people got food. I mean, really basic stuff that really is important. And the thing that I would add at this moment is that that's not in the job description of the drivers to provide food, but the drivers are, they're really looking to see what's needed and providing whatever is needed, and they go beyond, and they are to be commended for that. And I think that sense was pretty overwhelming at the Service Review Advisory Committee report, and appreciated. So I'll just leave it at that, because everything else is kind of a duplication of what was said today. But the real appreciation that people have for those things, they really make a difference in people's lives. So on behalf of that particular group, thank you to the operators. The next report is the Senior Mobility Action Council report. Is there somebody who'd like to give that report?
That would be me.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Okay. So typically the Senior Mobility Action Council is recessed in November and December, but we will be having our November meeting because we need to finalize the transportation infographic that has been prepared by Meredith Gerhardt from the Office of Emergency Services. So she was very kind enough to put that together, and it's just in the tweaking process. And so since we were going to meet to accomplish that, and since I had been put in touch with Colin Clark of the CCTA, he has been kind enough to give a talk on Vision Zero, which is one of the goals of CCTA to accomplish 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries when people are driving. So that's really it. We produced our accomplishments and goals. That's all done. So we're just finalizing this past year's work. And then we will recess in December and reassemble in January.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Or as I can tell, there aren't any. Thank you, Mary, for your report. And we'll move on now to Correspondence and Communications. Do any committee members want to add a topic to put on the future agenda item as a future agenda item?
I don't see any hands, Chair Abelson.
Pardon?
I do not see any hands, Chair Wilson.
Okay. The only thing that I would add is that I think all know that the pandemic is, I don't know if it's at its worst since it started, but it maybe is. And I know that we're being pushed into I think for the purple zone, which is the worst area. And that will have some impact on the services provided by Paratransit. And so it might be interesting to have a report from the operators again on how they're handling it, because it's probably going to be really hard. Are the people interested in that kind of a report? I'm hearing some nodding yes of the few faces I can see. Okay, any other things that people would like to see? Okay, I'm sure that Peter will come up with some really good things. That's then the last item on our agenda. And so we are adjourned to the next regular meeting, which is proposed for January the 25th at 2 p.m. By Zoom. And thank you all for coming. It was good to see those of you that I actually could see. Thank you for re-electing me as chair. And we hope you have a nice holiday season and that you maintain your social distance